when faced with a matchup that's traditionally seen as tough, you definitely got to think outside the box, and let's see what Anti-Kaiju's opponent can do against him as the Ogres. This is typically thought of as a tough matchup for the Ogres, and it didn't really change because it's really Huntsmen and Halberdiers that make this matchup tough, right? You've got your anti-large archers, very cost-effective, anti-large infantry, halberdiers and spearmen, some Empire Knights to support all that. The only DLC thing we've got is a single unit of Ironsides here, plus, yeah, that's it. Bright Wizard, newly HP buffed Boris, also up in the air, looking pretty fine. And then for the Ogres, it's quite an interesting build, I have to say. Wide on cavalry with Mournfang great weapons and regular Mournfangs over here. He's got a hunter and then another similar wing over here, except with one crusher, some more elite power, and some iron fists. Again, another hunter on Stonehorn. And then, yeah, the Slaughtermaster of Great Maw, of course, just some Noblars, is in a very weak center for a distraction. And you notice he's going to be pressuring immediately out on the flanks. Anti-Kaiju does exactly what he should and starts pressuring this weak center, kind of harassing these Noblars. Could even charge his Empire Knights and get maybe a quick hit and run, trying to just decisively shut them down before these flanking forces can get into position to engage. The Empire Knights are definitely going to have a pretty bad time against this Ogre cavalry, in particular any that are anti-large, but even the regular Mournfangs, I mean, heavy armor piercing damage, should be able to just get it done. As my camera glitches out a little bit there, you can see the Stonehorn already getting some nice disruption on the Empire line here, charging through to the second level of the Huntsmen. Over on the far side, both flanks, in fact, we get cavalry engagements between Empire Knights and Mournfangs, Crushers and whatnot. It's going to go very badly for the Empire cavalry in general, but let's see if their line troops can kind of hold and do some damage in the meantime. Nice burning head to cut down some of those Noblars who had sort of blobbed up a little bit on some of those spears. We'll be able to take them down quite effectively. Troll Guts also on that hunter, as he also fights Boris in melee. Yeah, the Huntsman being caught up in that melee engagement is pretty rough, but the other hunter immediately just going to charge on through and try and compromise this missile line some more. Make sure these Ironsides can't get set. Shoot Huntsman as well. So checking in with the cavalry over on the far side there. Yeah, the Mournfangs, Crushers winning out against the Empire Knights. No surprise there, but the Empire Infantry trading very cost effectively and needs to be avoided actually on both flanks. Halberdiers getting in here, and as long as they're avoiding getting charged and taking too much shock damage from those chargers and the Crushers and Mournfangs, I mean, yeah, they should be able to do okay in a sustained fight there, certainly. Empire Knights also holding that hunter in place while the Huntsmen try to retreat and hunt the hunters even, but Huntsmen having a hard time getting extricated. The one Ironside does kind of go out into a little square here, out on this side, and might be able to get some nice volleys here. Let's see. With Boris's leadership debuffs could actually lead to this unit getting routed, potentially here. I don't see them firing yet. Yeah, looks like they're having some line of sight issues, which is pretty unfortunate. They're technically engaged in melee, which, I mean, technically now not so technically, as they take a massive side charge there, kind of showing one of the vulnerabilities of that square formation. They take huge shock damage. The entire unit routes there, so probably not going to end up doing a lot here, but instead it's really like the Boris and Halberdier box working in tandem, starting to drag down these Mournfangs. That said, the rest of the Empire armies mostly in shambles. Huntsmen, Empire Knights running for the hills. Mournfang kind of flank collapse was able to do quite well, as they were able to get kind of one-on-one engagements against a lot of units, as we saw there, or at least locally advantageous engagements. Maybe it would be a more scientifically accurate way to put it. Not that this game is scientific in any way, but there we go. Boris continuing to hold the line here with his Halberdiers. And Boris, of course, force of nature, as long as he's on the field, will certainly be pain, but with two hunters and the Slaughtermaster, 3v1 single entity late game fight's not going to go great for him, so he definitely needs to try and preserve as many line troops as he can here. To that end, Mournfang Cavalry getting wrecked, and the Bright Wizard also still alive, shoring up the leadership of some of these units here in the center. These Spearmen and Halberdiers fighting that Hunter as he gets Butcher healing. He's pretty close to his healing cap. But yeah, a lot of these Empire line troops over on this side of the battlefield are actually reasonably healthy and definitely have enough in the tank to help contribute. So I think balance power may be a little bit fraudulent here. I don't know. We'll have to see. Healing is definitely going to be a factor as a Mornfang Cavalry. Only 6 models, though. Let's see if they actually get capped out on healing before the effect of the spell ends. That often can happen if there's not enough unit models alive. I guess they can heal up to 50% HP since that's what half their models, so yeah, we'll see. Perhaps. I think they probably will not get any overhealing there, but something to consider certainly when healing multi-model units is how many models have died and how much HP per model each has left, or how much, what's sort of the maximum you can get to, right? But Mornfang's there, got a nice charge, and yeah, you see what I'm talking about. The shock damage on the Halberdiers still have a lot of armor, and just in general light infantry still, so they will take a lot of damage from shock charges, but will punch back hard once they can stand and fight. And especially with Boris, a little bit of high mass of some Empire Knights still hanging around as well. Ooh, but Boris has to be careful. Yeah, you see that both the Stonehorns angling for pin here. They're going to go hammer and hammer, I guess. Or 2 swinging anvils. 2 hammers that the heads are actually anvils swinging into each other. There we go. But Boris somehow squeezes out of that and peels over to the Slaughtermaster, who has not received much of his own healing, and as a result is at risk of getting terrified away here, which he does. Holding the line, the Empire State troops, as cost-effective as ever, continuing to fight here and try and hold out, of course. The debuffs from Boris also help them perform better, right? Think about White Cloak of Ulrich, Crush the Weak, both debuffs I think were brought here. Yeah, Crush the Weak minus melee defense. I guess he didn't bring the other one, the White Cloak of Ulrich. That's okay. Kind of cost optimized a little bit there. But yeah, the Terror of Boris, you can see the Blood Roar also just from the Griffin. Of course, that extra -8 leadership is pretty substantial, especially against a faction which is known for having kind of lower leadership. I would probably rank Ogres in the bottom 5 of average leadership, of mortal factions at least. You kind of exclude all demonic and undead factions because they're a little weird, but yeah, low average leadership for sure, so that Blood Roar definitely can come into handy. But these Hunters still have a lot left in the tank. Ooh, nice heroic throw there. That is going to give the crippled contact effect. Again, massive melee defense and speed debuff, but no one really in a position to immediately capitalize on it. Ooh, that Hunter does get another Troll Guts, though. Ooh, Boris getting caught here by the Mornfangs. Crippled still active for another 13 seconds. Yeah, Boris might take some hits from this. An anti-large javelin throw as well from the Hunter there just did a good amount of damage to him, so that was actually, yeah, Ogre's regrouping here. Suddenly Boris looking quite vulnerable. If Boris goes down, all these Empire State troops, as cost-effective and awesome as they are just going to have major leadership issues, so let's see. It's definitely still anyone's game. Definitely still very interesting and close battle. Let's continue fast-forwarding a little bit. Notice how some of these guys do form into square. Not going to give them necessarily enough bracing bonus to stop the Hunter, but ideally, you know, maybe they can get a couple more unit models into contact at a time when they do charge through. But let's see here. One Halberdier running out after that Mornfang Cavalry, kind of pressuring them, making sure they can't get effectively involved. Meanwhile, the infantry line, yeah, showing their vulnerability here. Boris is going to try and fly over to shore up the leadership, but lots of terror going on here. And the Hunters just continuing to cover with their javelins. A little bit of dismember here for Boris. And the javelins for the Hunters. 100 bonus versus large, so he's got to be careful with that. They might be able to just pick him off with their ranged attacks, honestly, from here on out. But we're going to see a little burning head. I guess they had meant to debuff the leadership of the Slaughtermaster there to try and rout him off, but Boris is now going to charge down onto the ground, which, you know, not much else for him to do. Could try and stay up in the air, but that's not really going to help too much here. But yeah, looking pretty hopeless for the Empire at this point as Anti-Kaiju makes his final stand. Boris getting surrounded by great weapons. And the Stonehorn Hunters charging through. That'll be it. Victory for the Ogres. So I like that kind of unorthodox build. Very heavy build in terms of cavalry and monsters, right? I mean, to be expected from Ogres, but no monstrous infantry and hardly any Noblars. I mean, really just 4 basic Noblars, which is not a lot to speak of, but is interesting, you know. Definitely very, very interesting. I do feel like against like a net and gunline build, this Ogre Kingdoms build might have some troubles just because it doesn't really have enough meat to absorb a lot of missile damage. But I don't know, the Stonehorns at the same time with their missile resistance and everything else can just absolutely feast as they did here. Getting some really nice value, 2,500, 3,600, very impressive stuff. The Crushers and Mournfangs also basically all pretty much the same. I mean, the Crushers didn't really justify their increased costs necessarily over some of these other ones, but nice to see that sort of mid-tier AP cavalry for factions with access to it generally is the bane of the Empire. You know, stuff like Boar Boys, Cold One Knights, Cold One Riders, you know, Ogre Kingdoms have access to Mournfangs, which you don't see in a lot of matchups, but I do like, actually, the interaction in this matchup against Empire Knights. Allows you to kind of run roughshod and, yeah, do well here, which Tax the Rich certainly was able to. So big thanks, Kaiju, for sending in a loss. Always respect a player who, you know, will do that. Certainly appreciate it. As far as his Empire side goes, I mean, yeah, the Null Iron sides I don't think really did anything. I think he just take more Huntsmen instead, and it's fine. Maybe more Halberdiers. But yeah, Huntsmen and Halberdiers, it's really all you need in this matchup to win. Like 5 of each from your base and then work from there. But yeah, overall, Boris fairly solid. Definitely decent stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.